All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today's World of EUC webinar. So today I'm joined by Jim Yanik, who is the Director of Technical Marketing at Omnissa, and Dale Carter, who is the Director of Technical and Competitive Marketing at Omnissa. So Jim and Dale have been around the community for a long time. They've been part of Omnissa and VMware EUC for a long time. And they're here to tell us today what Omnissa is up to. Um, and they're going to, kind of walk us through everything that has been going on in the last year. Uh, and yeah. So just one real quick thing before I turn it over to Jim and Dale. If you've seen TechZone, it used to be techzone.vmware.com. Now it is the Omnissa TechZone. Jim leads the architects that create all of the great reference architecture and technical material. And Dale and his team help run the new Omnissa community. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim and Dale. Um, the floor is yours, and thank you.
Awesome, thanks. And let me get the deck going here. We're happy to be here, everybody. Glad you joined us today. And as Sean said, we're here to talk to you about Omnissa, the platform, the solution, where we're going, the company, kind of generally what we've been up to. So a lot of people are asking questions and trying to understand, what is Omnissa? Obviously, we came out of the VMware end user computing business unit, and we're all of what that was and more. And so we want to let you know where we're going and how we're sort of positioning everything that we're doing. So Dale, if you could go ahead.
Yeah, and I would just add that if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Yes, please.
Sean's going to jump in and ask those questions as we move through this deck. If it'll move forward, there we go.
All right, and we're going to start with what is the Omnissa platform, and go ahead and advance. So a bit of introductory information here and just a little bit of level setting. Obviously, over the last 4 years, the pandemic, which we all lived through, changed a whole lot of things. So we all understand some of the things that it changed. We took everybody who was working in an office and sent them home and scattered them all over the place. So things became a lot less monolithic, right? So a lot of entropy got introduced. We have, new devices to deal with, new locations, new network connectivity. A whole lot of things have changed that has put a lot of pressure on IT in general. Along with that, expectations changed. For a long time, IT was kind of like, try to make it not bad and you get what we give you. Now people are expecting more of a, of a self-serve, a consumer type of experience, an experience where, problems get solved pretty quickly. And all of these additional things that we're dealing with, devices, cloud platforms, et cetera, have just created a lot of exposure. So a lot of security exposure. And since we all deal with IT tools and security tools, we all know that people like to game around those. And so there are a lot of situations where users are trying to get around them or they're irritated by them. And so from an Omnissa standpoint, we're trying to address a lot of these problems through our platform. And go ahead and advance the slide and we'll start to talk about that a bit. So what do we mean by the Omnissa platform? In a nutshell, it's really everything we do. If you were following us at VMware in the VMware timeframe, we used to call this Anywhere Workspace. We've sort of broken it down into 4 major solution areas. So virtual desktops and apps, unified endpoint management, security and compliance, and digital employee experience or DEX. Now, undergirding that, really, the 2 big buckets are Horizon and Workspace ONE. There's a lot of nuance within that, but just generally, those are the main sort of 2 products. Now, there's also a nice set of platform services that kind of run across this. So identity, our access product, for example, the ability to have an administrative console where you can locate and add resources. we've got a rich data lake. We're gathering a lot of data. We'll talk about that, especially in relation to intelligence and DEX as we move forward through this. We've got a really nice workflow tool, Freestyle Orchestrator, that allows us to automate a lot of things. And we've been doing a lot for a while around machine learning and AI. We're going to be doing more. I know that everybody's kind of AI washing everything. I'm going to try to talk to you about what we're actually doing and where we're using AI and where we've been using AI. And all of this is to get some positive outcomes. You know, smarter IT, seamless experience for the user, and proactive embedded security. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So I mentioned the common platform services briefly. There's a rich set of things here that we're using. So, for example, identity, the ability to log into an environment and be able to set what people can and can't access, and be able to set an entire workspace for them based on their identity. We have our own tool for that. We also partner with other vendors such as Okta and Ping. There's a huge data gathering process that's going on. We have a massive data lake, and we're gathering all sorts of metrics from both Horizon and UEM endpoints. We're using machine learning and AI to coordinate that, to do things like provide the ability to do root cause analysis that's guided. And there's, as I mentioned already, Freestyle Orchestrator, a nice workflow tool, so we can do some pretty advanced workflows. I'll talk about that a little more when I talk about Freestyle for mobile, which is fairly new. Go ahead. So we have a ton of partners. Most of this all goes back to both the VMware and AirWatch days. So a ton of partnerships on the Horizon side. Epic and Cerner, you know, we're platforms of record. The ability to use multiple clouds like AWS and Azure. On the UEM side, we can manage pretty much every device that's available. We also do a lot in the frontline space with some of the specialized devices like Zebra and Honeywell. On the security side, we've got a strong OEM partnership with Lookout for our mobile threat detection solution within UEM. And also, as I mentioned earlier, Okta, Microsoft Entra ID, and Google. And then on the DEX side, partnerships both in sort of the shared signal space, like with Google, and also the ability to you know, use something like Slack to send alerts to. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we can, a part of monitoring is quick alerting so that people can react to it, and also automation. And so we want to make sure we have the ability to alert out. Go ahead. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is sort of a North Star of where we're designing for, and that's the idea around the autonomous workspace. So when we talk about autonomous workspace, we're really talking about self-configuring, self-securing, and self-healing. Now, self-configuring, we're there a lot. So onboarding devices, we have very seamless device onboarding. I'll talk about that a little bit more. In self-securing, what we want to be able to do, and we're starting to do, is you can detect a vulnerability or a compliance issue. A patch isn't applied, or a setting that we require for PCI compliance isn't done. And the ability to not only detect that, but kick off an automated remediation. And then self-healing is where we detect an incident like an app crash, go through a guided root cause analysis, and eventually automatically remediate that. Now, we're not here on all of this, but this is what we're designing towards. This is what we're going towards. This is where we're leveraging things like AI and machine learning. Go ahead. So I want to talk about some things that we've delivered recently. So we're going to talk about some roadmap things here today, but also want to talk about some things that have shipped in the last, say, 6 months or so. So across our solution stack, we've shipped, you know, innovative new things. So, for example, on the virtual desktop and app side, we've expanded the use of app volumes from just non-persistent desktops to persistent desktops. We're also going to be able to do that with physical desktops here coming pretty quick. so that you can have, one app that you can deploy across all your environments, whether they're virtual or physical. We've added support for Horizon Cloud with Windows 365. We've added support for Horizon 8 with Amazon Workspace's Core. On the UEM side, I'm going to talk more about modern architecture. That's been a big push for us over the last couple of years. I've got a slide on that later. AM API support, enhanced UEM for Horizon. On the security side, to our mobile threat detection, we've added phishing and content protection, and we've also given the ability to have a tunnel client on unmanaged devices, even if you're not using UEM to manage the device, to be able to take advantage of our tunnel clients. And then on the DEX side, more metrics. We've added DEX for Horizon. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we've added more for DEX for mobile. Go ahead.
All right, before I jump into some of the solutions, Sean, do we have any questions, or do you have any questions right now?
No, we don't have any questions in the QA panel, so we're good to go.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Horizon solution, and then we'll move back to Jim to talk about UEM. So let's just jump right into Horizon. So as you can see, Horizon is the strong platform that it's always been, and it's continuing to grow, and we're continuing that investment in our Horizon deployment. Right now, it is the industry-leading modern platform to securely deliver your desktops and apps. And as you can see by this slide, and as Jim said, we are growing this out on the public clouds as well as the on-premise solution, right? We're adding in automation with Workspace ONE services, the automation services, machine learning, right? The monitoring, the image management and app deployments. Working with, all of the big cloud providers from Google, Microsoft, AWS, right, as you can see there. So this is where we are continuing that investment in the Horizon platform for our virtual desktop and apps solution. So as we dig further into that, it's becoming even easier to deploy the Horizon solution, whether it be Horizon 8 on premises, where you basically manage the whole solution from top to bottom, including the hardware, the virtualization layer, or whether you go with Horizon 8 on VMware Cloud, where VMware is managing that Horizon and virtualization level, but then Omnissa can still manage the cloud management from the Horizon control plane. This is going across any of these clouds, from AVS, from GCVE, IBM, right? So we've got lots of options there in the cloud. We also have Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure, where we're looking at Microsoft to deliver the hardware and virtualization layer of management, but Omnissa will manage the Horizon infrastructure. And the same on the AWS Workspaces and Workspaces Core, where AWS will manage that hardware and virtualization layer, and Omnissa will manage the Horizon infrastructure, and you continue to manage your desktop and apps. And as we continue to grow, Horizon is becoming the leader in a number of different industries, whether it be healthcare, where healthcare providers are using Horizon to deliver access to, or secure access to, their medical professionals to patient data. Whether it's the public sector, there's numerous governments, local and state, that are using Horizon to help their employees work remotely and still get access to secure data. Right, financial services, some of the largest banks in the world are already on Horizon now, again, to get access to all their secure data from anywhere they want to work. Retail are modernizing their POS deployments in stores, right, and also deploying Horizon to help with their call centers, right, and increasing their desktop footprints at times like this when we've got seasonal workers coming in, right? So they're bursting to clouds if they've got their on-premise deployments. Education is using Horizon to give remote access to students and teachers. And then we've got other industries like manufacturing and entertainment that are using GPU-powered virtual desktops to do design and developer desktops. So as you can see, Horizon is becoming just one of the best solutions a lot of these industries have today, to enable that work from home mentality that a lot of people have got used to and don't want to change at this point. So it's definitely something we will continue to invest in and something that will continue to grow. And then we also are, a recognized leader from the analysts like IDC and Gardner. We're continuing to grow out the security certifications of Horizon as we get into all the different industries and different clouds. And we continue to say that we have several strategic alliances with these cloud providers and other ecosystem providers partners to help get to where you need to be and get to the solution you need. So just wrapping up the Horizon area, what's top of mind here, right? Horizon really is the true multi-cloud solution, whether it's public, private, right, on-premise, whatever that solution is you need for your environment, Horizon can definitely provide it. We're, adding in things like apps everywhere, where we have this seamless application management solution to easily patch and deploy and deliver the app experience that each of your users is looking for. And then from a security and experience perspective, right, we are continuing to build out that roadmap. Again, adding more certifications in there for security, improving the experience all the time for our end users, so that they can continue to work from anywhere whenever they want. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it back to Jim to talk about UEM.
So
All right.
sorry
Right.
to break in here. Before we move on, there was one question that just came in to the Q&A panel. It's regarding app volumes, and the question is there support for app volumes in non-persistent VDI? And I'm not sure if they meant non-persistent or persistent, but if you would like to quickly address that one.
The answer is yes to both. I mean, non-persistent from day one, and we just added persistent.
Yep. Does that answer the question, Sean?
I believe it does, so thank you.
Perfect. All right, so I'll let Jim take it away with UEM.
Okay, go ahead and move the slide. So just a little bit of tooting our horn on this. So there's a number of things that UEM really helps with here. All of these data points come from various industry analysts. I think there's some Gartner info here. It's in the slide notes. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but we didn't make these figures up. We got them from various reports. But obviously, for using endpoint management and security, there's tons of tools involved. Some companies have, 3 of them, some have a score of them. There's just a bunch of tools, and obviously that adds cost. There's some pressure, obviously, from the finance side of every company to decrease cost. And, from an IT perspective, we want to decrease complexity. So if we can settle on, a tool or 3 tools instead of, 12 tools, it makes sense. That cost is, obviously high to maintain all those different tools. There's a lack of endpoint visibility with a lot of the tools. We're continuing to add more data and more ways to parse the data because, having 32,000 data points isn't helpful unless you can rationalize those data points. You can put them in reports. You can act on them with orchestration and those kinds of things. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the employee productivity and security are always at odds, right? There's always like, ooh, security's getting in my way. I mean, I gotta log in 8 times, relog in 8 times a day. Having just recently worked for a company where that was required, I really feel it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So the big thing or the big message I have with UEM is it's a modern and scalable architecture. I'll talk more about the modern SaaS backend here in a minute. It's unified and integrated, and we're building towards this autonomous IT vision. So The real talking points are any endpoint. It doesn't matter where desktop, mobile, rugged, etc. Any operating system and across any use case. So we do a lot with, obviously we're mostly BYO at Omnissa in terms of phones, but we're also corporate owned in terms of our laptops. So we deal with both those kinds of devices. Purpose-built devices are pretty common, especially on the front line. You're using a Zebra device in a warehouse, for example. And so UEM really can move across all of these platforms. Okay. And then this is just a data point from IDC. So this was this year's MarketScape on UEM. Really, the platform is among the most complete UEM products on the market. So we're worth a look from that standpoint alone. Go ahead. So I mentioned modern architecture a couple of times, and here's really what I'm talking about. It's the SaaS backend for UEM. So we've moved from a monolithic, sort of old school type of an architecture with a database for each instance and all those kinds of things to a modern type SaaS environment. So all new microservices being linked together through a common control plane. What this has really done for us and what it does for customers is scalability, speed, and support for complex workflows. So we can scale nearly infinitely. In fact, as a customer environment grows, since we're monitoring that, we can see, okay, we need to add more scale on the back end. So for the most part, a customer would never see that. 10x improved resource delivery is actually underselling things a bit. Some of the things that we do, the way we do them now, are blindingly fast compared to the way we did them under the old UEM. And then we're feeding a lot of new capabilities. A lot of our development over the last year and a half has been assuming that this modern SaaS architecture was coming. So Apple DDM, Windows Multi-User, AM API, and all the rest of the things listed there are available today if you've got modern stack. And in terms of like if you've got it or not, we're rolling it out as we speak. So we've rolled out a bunch of managed SaaS environments in production. We're in the midst of rolling out shared SaaS, and this will continue through the first part of the year. So we're releasing new features that require modern SaaS, and we're turning it on as we're rolling through customers. So more and more of our customers will get it. I think we've rolled it out to 7,000 or 8,000 environments already, and we're still moving. Go ahead. So one of the things that this has facilitated is, as I mentioned, Apple Declarative Device Management. So this is a really slick way of just saying, I want this device to be compliant with X. And the example I've got here is I've got an iOS update that's past due. So I can set rules, I can allow a certain number of deferments, and then once the deferments are passed, you're getting it whether you want it or not. So go ahead and click one, Dale.
Yep.
So a lot of the way we work is right now with the way modern architecture works, especially on mobile devices, is we can push out an entire package and potentially not activate it until you're compliant with something. So in this example here, if I go ahead and set my passcode, I've already sent you the entire package for Wi-Fi, VPN, a set of applications, and once you're compliant with that passcode, we turn it on, and the device constantly looks at this. So now I don't have to go back to the MDM and say, here's where I'm at, and sort of every 4 hours, every 8 hours, I'm getting those updates. That's all configured at the device level. And if you somehow turn off your passcode, we're going to blank all that stuff back out. So it's happening in real time. Give it another click. Another thing we can do, for example, is if you want your email configured, you've got to use Workspace ONE Boxer or whatever your email app. This happens to be our email app that we provide, and then we'll configure your email for you. So it happens very quickly. When I said earlier, because of modern architecture, 10x the speed was underselling it. This is kind of instantaneous, which is really nice. Okay, go ahead. So a lot of people from who've been using UEM for a long time. Started back in the AirWatch days. We were mostly mobile then. We've added a really robust, cloud native modern management for desktop. Windows, we also do Mac, we also do Chrome and Linux. And there's basically 5 big areas here. I'm not going to go through all of this in granular detail, but everything from onboarding to and doing that really well, so that you've got a really nice out-of-box experience to configuring that desired state. I can use scripting and sensors to make sure that things are compliant, for example. OS updates, so those are getting done wherever the user happens to be. I can put granular controls around it. We've got optimized delivery. We can make sure people get the software they need, and some proactive support. For example, employee notifications. Our hub services, our hub client really does a good job of pushing out notifications. Since we just went through a VMware acquisition by Broadcom and then a Broadcom spin-off to Omnissa, we've been going through a lot of changes. So we got a lot of good notifications through hub services. And in fact, one of the things that had to happen when we left Omnissa with our laptops was they all had to be reformatted and re-enrolled. And so Workspace ONE UEM did all of that for us. It was it's nerve-wracking to think somebody's going to format your hard drive because you've been using a laptop for, in my case, the last 3 years. But everything went very, very efficiently. Once we made sure that we had our data on cloud storage, it really was painless. I think my whole end-to-end process took maybe an hour and a half, and I didn't have to do much. So, really nice to be able to see a resource being managed like that, and seeing us using our own products to pull something off. I know, Dale, you had a good experience as well with that.
I did, yeah. Like you said, Jim, about an hour and a half, I set it off, and about an hour and a half later, my desktop was back exactly as I left it, just, all wiped and ready to go.
Yeah, and believe me, you got 2 guys here who have been around for a minute, not our first rodeo with stuff like this. So I think we were both a little nervous, but it went
Yeah,
really well.
I think it surprised both of us, to be honest.
It's great to see things work. All right, go ahead. We've actually had this functionality for quite a while. So if you have Horizon, persistent, full clone desktops, you can manage them with UEM right now. You've been able to do it for a while. We've added a few enhancements so that it makes it easier to do it. But so now you can, in terms of your Windows estate, you can manage your physical and virtual desktops with the same tool. So really happy to have that. It's probably a best kept secret, so we're trying to get the word out more and more. Go ahead.
Yeah, just before we go ahead, Jim, there is a question in the Q&A.
Okay.
I think it's the question we were both expecting at some point. I expected it through the Horizon part. But the question is, and I'll let you answer this one.
I can answer before you even ask it, I bet.
Yeah, I'll bet you can.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So we'll ask it anyway. But what other hypervisor will Horizon support and when?
Others and soon. And that's about all I can tell you today.
Yeah, exactly. We can't talk to roadmap, but what's his space?
Based on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're working on it, promise.
Yeah.
We've also added within UEM Windows multi-user support so that you can support use cases like shift workers or pre-staged out of the box for multi-users. Shift workers using Horizon persistent pools is a feature that people have been asking for a while. So now we've expanded that so that and it's actually pretty slick because I don't have to go ahead and re-enroll the device for each user. We can enroll the device once and then we can shift the context user by user. So a nice addition to management for those use cases. Go ahead. So for those of you who don't know, we've got a pretty robust automation platform called Freestyle Orchestrator. There's a ton of use cases we can support here. I'll call out a couple here. Some of my favorites, frankly, are on the frontline side, shared device check-in notifications. This way, I know where that shared device is. I'm getting check-in and check-out. Those are the kind of things that can walk away pretty easily. So using an automation and managing the device through UEM reduces those, those lost devices, I'll call them. Another nice one there is battery health monitoring. This really shows off the ability to, we can look at the battery health, we see the age of the battery. Maybe it's 2 years old, and maybe there was a generic thing that said every 2 years we're going to order new batteries for our fleet. But maybe that 2-year-old battery is still doing okay, right? It's still, so why replace it too early? So we can monitor the health, and we can also kick off a purchasing process through an external system. So, nice kinds of things you can do. Another really nice thing is within, sort of the device onboarding side of things is there are certain situations where you have to have things in a very specific sequence happened on a device. Whereas, sort of standard software distribution kind of happens in whatever order it happens. We can completely orchestrate the exact order, dependencies, sort of P0 things that have to happen before anything else happens. So, a really nice set of orchestrations you can get. Go ahead. And then this is pretty cool because we have a marketplace, and we've got a bunch of workflow templates that are out there. We're adding more. Just helps you adopt a new service much quicker. So I want to do, OS updates with deferrals. Well, let me grab a template that's already been developed, so I don't have to go figure out all the logic for it. You can modify those templates, but just a nice environment or a nice catalog of templates that are available already. Go ahead. And we have, this says limited availability. I think we've either GA'd it or are just on the verge of GA'd it, but that is a Freestyle Orchestrator for mobile devices specifically, iOS and Android. So some additional use cases here, like cert management or corporate Wi-Fi. And again, this can be very granularly orchestrated. I mentioned that new device onboarding use case. Same thing applies here. I can do it for mobile devices as well. So just a nice enhancement for Freestyle Orchestrator. Go ahead. We've also improved within our intelligence backend data visualization, more reports, a nice data explorer, a pretty cool widget overlay where I can compare two data sets side by side, a nice SDK. So just some good enhancements that we've released in the last few months around intelligence. Go ahead. And then I've already sort of talked about frontline workers, but this is again, some of the use cases we can support. Really like the low touch enrollment, really simple zero touch enrollment configuration for new devices because these devices kind of come and go, so being able to get them in and out really well. And of course, remote worker support. A lot of this is being used by people who are somewhere in the field, at a store, in a warehouse, or various places. So, the ability to, take care of issues that they've got remotely. Go ahead. And then we talked about our 4 pillars at the beginning, and one of them was security and compliance. I just wanted to call out, while we're not sort of the classic security company, we're not an AV company, for example, we have been building security into, both the major platforms for, almost 15 years now, with a lot of things that we've done as just, part of doing business. Like, I'll call out a couple things like, the ability to do conditional access on the UE and the Workspace ONE side. Until you meet these certain conditions, we're not going to let you in. We're not going to let you on the network. On the Horizon side, doing endpoint certificate checking and making sure everything's kosher with the endpoint, or support in healthcare for something like Imprivata. Although, you probably don't think of us first as a security company, we definitely have been in the security business for a long time, and we're going to continue to enhance those things. Go ahead.
All right, so before we switch over to talk about DEX, any questions, Sean?
Yeah, so we have one question in the Q&A panel, and it's actually really relevant to that last slide about security. And the question is a Horizon question. Are there any plans for Omnissa to create new partnerships with antivirus solutions for non-persistent desktops above and beyond what was done with Carbon Black?
So yes, we did just announce a partnership with um,
That's right.
yes, thank you. I don't know why I went blank on that. We just did announce a partnership with CrowdStrike. There's probably some other things forthcoming there too. So yes, there'll be more.
All right. And then we have one more question that just came in, which is, does Workspace ONE UEM support application or MSIX applications?
To distribute MSI application, X
M
application.
MSIX,
Yeah,
not
yeah, yes,
regular.
yeah, yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions there, Sean?
Nope, that's it.
All right. So let's just jump into Dex here. Oh, let's move this slide forward. All right, so we've been involved in Dex now for several years. We're one of the areas that we are constantly improving and expanding is our Dex solution as we look at all of the different areas that we can support and deploy Dex to and how it will help our experience management, right? So we're measuring different things and adding different areas to measure all the time, right? When we're talking about remediate, this is going back to these autonomous desktop and solutions that Jim talked about earlier. And we're looking at how Dex and all our AI solutions can help fix some issues before users even see them, right? And then analyze and configure dashboards. We're building out these dashboards and giving more options to look at the issues and root causes all of the time to help administrators, right, spot problems before users see them as well and find common issues across maybe network performance and things like that. Right. So that's where our DEX solution is really starting to help. And as I just said, we're expanding Dex as rapidly as we possibly can from the Windows desktop to on our Mac solution from to mobile, our frontline devices, and now with added in virtual desktop and apps, we just added that. We are constantly monitoring our portfolio there. And then we're integrating with other solutions using our ITSM connector so that we share this data with other solutions you may be using to monitor your estate. Right, so it's not just stuck in one area where we're able to get that data to you as quickly as we possibly can, again, so that you can help spot any issues before your customers actually experience them. And then and then one of the things we did just roll out last year, Explore, was the Dex playbooks. Again, similar to the marketplace, this is to help you use Dex and get the best utilization out of it as fast as possible. So this is just some of the issues that we are looking at and some of the data points we are pulling. Our agents are pulling data. I think it's somewhere between every 1 and 15-minute intervals, depending on the data point we're looking at. We're obviously mindful of that data, what we collect to ensure that the agent doesn't become intrusive or impact the user's experience, right? And when we do install it on maybe a virtual desktop that's being managed by UEM, right, we're not pulling the same data twice, right? The agents are smart enough to realize that, maybe the UEM agent is pulling that data point, so the DEX agent doesn't need to. Right, so all of this data is going back into the same data lake that Jim was talking about earlier. Right, and this is just right there. There's a bunch of things that any admin who looks at just this list will see some benefits to, but the list is much more expansive as we look at what everything that Dex will pull. So Jim's going to quickly talk about some use cases of where we're using Dex today and where we're seeing our customers use Dex as well.
Yeah, so one of the areas that we've expanded into is offering Dex for Horizon. So giving some good visibility to manage your Horizon environment. So some of the typical problems we've dealt with, and I've been around Horizon since, well, I joined VMware in 2008, so pretty much since then. And a lot of this is comes up all the time. So long login times, like how do I dissect that? If there's a group of users getting long login times, where's it coming from? Is it coming from faulty GPOs? Where's it coming from? So a lot of granular data available there. Slow network stuff. The classic thing I used to deal with all the time is people would have users complaining about, random performance issues. And a lot of times it was a matter of, having sort of an inquisition with the user to figure out, what they were doing that caused that. And oh, lo and behold, I was sitting at Starbucks on really awful Wi-Fi. Well, now we can just grab that data from the user. And then, roadmap side, we want to be able to do some dynamic resource optimization too. So running out of memory or CPU on a server, we need to allocate more server space, those kinds of things. So DEX exposes all of this sort of things. Now we have a lot of reports available today, more coming. So really nice set of use cases for Horizon. Go ahead. On the frontline side, also already talked about some of this. The battery monitoring and the lost device prevention are two big ones. And also just generally performance, because we want to make sure people are not being frustrated by those devices. Is the app running slow? Those kinds of things, so we can remediate those sorts of things. Ups productivity, obviously, but also ups the happiness level, which is really important, because you don't want somebody frustrated with a device that can't do my job. Go ahead. And finally, the use cases on the service desk side. I really like some of the ITSM integration we've done. We've got really nice integration with ServiceNow, for example, but we also have a generic ITSM connector that you can add to other service desk type software. But the ability to have a remediation workflow, like, for example, we already know that this app crashes when it's on this version, and IT's already built a remediation workflow to update that device, to have that right inside ITSM so that I can trigger it when I'm working the ticket if I'm help desk, is huge, because that gets people back up and running as quickly as possible, because the name of the game is to reduce that mean time to remediation. All right, go ahead. So this is something new. We announced it at our Omnissa One events over the last month or so, called Omni. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing around AI, just briefly. Go ahead and advance.
Yeah, just before we do, Jim, have we got any questions there?
Oh,
Sean?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was just about to hop in here. So we have two questions in the Q&A panel right now. The first one is around DEX, and it's kind of two questions. The first is DEX available as a separate subscription? And then kind of the follow-up to that is in Europe, especially, some government agencies are still wary of public SaaS, and then there's also GDPR and data locality requirements. Are there any plans on providing like a limited slash sovereign cloud version for on-premises deployments?
So yeah, I can take both of those. So on the second question, we are working on that. We're just sort of internally calling it modern private cloud. So we're working on that, and we'll probably start with some partners, especially in Europe, where data sovereignty is a big issue. I think we've already got some partners lined up that we're going to pilot it with, and then I believe there is a plan to offer it for certain customers. But I will say, there's a high level of skill set you need to run an environment like that across a ton of things like HashiCorp. So it's not something that's just going to be available as a SKU. It'll be there'll probably be a gating process for a customer to get into that on-prem program. But yes, that is in the works. And then, Sean, remind me of the first question, because my mind.
Can I get DEX as a standalone
Yes.
like subscription?
Yeah, there is a DEX standalone SKU. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the second question is there going to be any kind of integration between like DEX and then the Horizon Help Desk functionality? Or is DEX going to be like some sort of drop-in replacement for that Horizon Help Desk feature?
So I haven't heard of any plans to back integrate to that Horizon Help Desk, and that Horizon Help Desk shipped a while ago. I don't know if they're planning on backing DEX into that, or it wouldn't be a drop and replace necessarily, because you could still use Horizon Desktop, or sorry, Help Desk side by side with DEX. but I haven't seen any roadmap around a specific integration on that.
All right, thank you. And those are the only questions we have.
Okay.
All right, I'll go to the next slide.
All right, so I just want to, and I guess there's another click there. Oh, or there, it just took a minute to build. Okay, so just going to talk a little bit about AI evolution and vision. So we already have some stuff in the platform that are AI, so actionable insights. So insights, when we're gathering all this data, again, as I mentioned earlier, having 32,000 pieces of data times 10,000 desktops or whatever is not useful. We have to have some way of parsing it. So we've already got some things around insights where, oh, we're seeing this trend and start bringing it to the surface. There's some AI underneath that. Now, the next thing we're doing, and go ahead and click, is conversational assistance, something we're calling Omni. Its roadmap, I'm going to call delivery first half of next year right now. I, I have a better idea of the timing on that, but it's not anything I can share yet. But this is really natural language processing, so I can ask a question, and Omni will go back and look at the data and give you an answer. So I want, I want all the desktops that have this version of X on it, and we can, go and grab that. So that's the next thing we have on our roadmap to deliver, and we're close to delivering it. Now the rest of this is more further out roadmaps. So go ahead and click again. And so this falls into more of the advised department. Like we're gonna do some guided recommendations. So you'll have a list of remediations and optimizations that you could work through and possibly use, that the AI and the machine learning is in the background picking up and then offering to you as part of as part of your console. And finally, what I talked about earlier, this whole goal of autonomous workspaces, the self-configuration, self-healing, self-securing. We're building that in as we go. So that's probably not going to be like, we're going to release autonomous workspaces as a big release. It'll probably be, pieces and parts over the next couple of years. So, all right, go ahead.
All right, Sean, before we go to the last couple of slides and wrap this up, any final questions?
Yeah, so two questions. The first one is about Dex, and the question is Dex going to be a replacement for Control Up and the partnership that EU Omnissa had with Control Up over the last few years?
I suppose the short answer there is yes.
Okay. And then the last question is, will customers have the ability to alter or modify the underlying AI models underneath Omni, or is that all going to be presented kind of as like a service and Omnissa manages those all the AI backend pieces?
As far as I know, it'll be option B, where we'll offer it as a service and we'll manage the back end pieces. I don't know if there'll be some knobs you can turn, but for the most part, especially initially, it's going to be just out of the box the way we configure it.
All right. Uh, I don't have any other questions.
All right, so let's just wrap this up then. So, where can we go to get more information? Right, these are the three main areas that our teams manage, right? So we got docs@omnissa.com, we got techzone@omnissa.com, and we got community.omnissa.com. All three really great sites where you'll get a lot of information. I will do a shameless plug right now. The Tech Insider program that my team runs will open up for nominations this week. I think Friday. Holly and team did a session with some of the Tech Insiders earlier today. You will find that recording and the information on the Tech Insider program on the community.omnissa.com. So if that is something you're interested in joining and becoming one of the Tech Insiders, highly recommend you go out and look at that session and learn about that program, right? And then apply. I think the application process is open for about a month, so start of December to maybe the first week in January. And we've announcing the new Tech Insiders for the 2025 program in February. So with that, I would like to say thank you on behalf of Jim and I. And if there's no further questions, Sean, we're happy to wrap this up. I think
Uh,
you've got some other slides though, Sean, right?
yep, I have a couple more slides to wrap it up. So I'm
All
going to
right,
go
I'll
ahead
stop
and put
sharing.
those up on the screen right now. Jim, Dale, thank you for coming on today to talk about what is new with Omnissa and where you have been going. I know that has probably been one of the biggest questions that our community has been asking about. So we really appreciate the time today. So just a couple of housekeeping items as I wrap up here. First, we have a couple of webinars and meetups coming up. The first is on December 11th. It is actually an expanded version of an EUC World Lightning session by Tim Mangan about MSIX. And then on January 7th, we have another session um, that is a continuation or expansion of an EUC World session on it's Ray Davis. He did a session on Microsoft Teams. So I would, if you're interested in either of those topics, definitely register. These are two top-notch community presenters. They have been around for a very long time. They have a lot of expertise. And then if you're in the Kansas City area on January 16th, the Kansas City World of EUC in-person local meetup will be occurring, and there's going to be more details on that on the World of EUC events page, worldofeuc.org/events. And then the next day, there is a Prolifics Community Edition webinar or event, and there's going to be more details on our event site as well. All right, so last couple of things. Um, I mentioned World of EUC lightning sessions, and we have some webinars coming up about, expanding what we did there. Well, we have some exciting news. World of EUC 2025 will be happening. Uh, we will have more details to come, but if you want to attend a dedicated in-person EUC event, August 4th to 7th. Put that in your calendar. We will be having more details coming up soon. All right, and then prizes. So we have a World of EUC t-shirt. Oh, and so the question just popped into the Q&A panel about location. Watch this space. We will be announcing that soon. We are not ready to announce that quite yet. All right, so we have two. We have a t-shirt to give away. The winner of the World of EUC t-shirt for this event is Anne Svoboda. So Anne, somebody from our team will be reaching out to you to get you your t-shirt. But wait, we also have a surprise prize package from Omnissa, and it is an Omnissa surprise bundle featuring some great Omnissa swag. And that is going to go to Jason Lee. So Jason, somebody will be contacting you also to get your Omnissa community bundle to you. So congratulations, Anne and Jason. I hope you enjoy your giveaways. So, and with that, I'd like to thank you for attending this afternoon. And we have, like I said, we have a lot more exciting events coming up. And if you're interested in leading an in-person event for World of EUC, please reach out to us. All the details are on our website. So once again, Jim, Dale, thank you for joining us today. Yeah, if you have questions, Dale did post the link to the Omnissa community site. We have our World of EUC Slack. Please feel free to reach out on either of those locations. And have a great afternoon.